seem for now the only place where the Catalan conflict is being discussed. Hello and welcome to Catalan News. No political solution yet, with the Catalan leader Carles Puigdemont still behind bars in Germany, 5 other politicians fighting extradition from Belgium, Switzerland and Scotland, and 9 others already in prison in Spain. The Catalan conflict remains unsolved. Today, Puigdemont said that he still wants to be president and showed his trust in the German judicial system. Here at Catalan News, we'll explain the latest on this case, and we'll also speak to the lawyer of one of the deposed ministers fighting extradition, Clara Ponsatí. And bear with us to find out a bit more about how the tourism industry is doing pretty well here. We also have an interesting cinema proposal about one of Catalonia's greatest artists, Salvador Dalí. A former Minister of Foreign Affairs for Slovenia and former ambassador in Germany visited Carles Puigdemont in a New Munster prison today. He was the latest in a number of visits that also included the Vice President of the Catalan Parliament, as well as Puigdemont's wife, Marcela Topor. The situation of the Catalan leader keeps influencing the political scene in Catalonia, with no clear indication on what steps pro-independence parties will take in order to elect a new government. Will they try to elect Puigdemont, or will they choose another candidate?
Puigdemont is willing to retake his post as Catalan president, if he can. His bid to reclaim the highest office in Catalonia appeared to have come to an end in January when Spanish court blocked a swearing-in ceremony from abroad. But his detention in Germany has put him at the epicenter of Catalan politics once again.
Està disposat a seguir endavant i a seguir representant allò que a dia d'avui el Parlament encara voldria que pogués exercir, que és la presidència de la Generalitat.
Puigdemont is receiving visits from his colleagues from Catalonia, as well as from European politicians travelling to New Munster prison to support the pro-independence leader.
I cannot imagine that Germany would pull back from its moral and political standards.
Meanwhile, in Catalonia, the political situation remains at a standstill. Without a president, there is no government. So far, Spanish courts have blocked all candidates put forward by the pro-independence parties. Unable to form an alternative majority, the unionist parties keep criticising their rivals for prolonging the stalemate. But the Catalonia in Comú party, which is allied with neither bloc, is calling for broader agreements.
Nosaltres creiem que existeixen majories alternatives, que hi ha altres possibilitats que podrien desencallar la situació a Catalunya i que una d'elles passa per aquest govern d'independents.
The Parliament is expected to meet tomorrow and all eyes will be on the Speaker, Roger Torrent, and the Parliament Bureau. This week, they accepted Puigdemont's petition to vote by proxy, despite objections from Parliament lawyers and opposition parties. And Ciutadans, the largest party in the chamber, wants to hold the Speaker accountable.
I nosaltres confiem que els grups d'Esquerra Republicana i Junts per Catalunya no negaran aquesta compareixença i que el propi senyor Torrent demanarà als seus grups, als grups que li han donat suport, que permetin que ell comparegui.
The session will start at 10 in the morning.
Puigdemont might be the most prominent Catalan politician fighting extradition from abroad, but he's certainly not the only one. Antoni Comín, Meritxell Serret and Lluís Puig, 3 Catalan ministers dismissed by the Spanish government, are to appear in court on Thursday in Belgium. They've been in the country since last October, and this is not the first European arrest warrant they have faced. Last time, a Belgian court decided to let them walk free while a final decision on their extradition was made. If the same criteria prevails this time, Puigdemont will be the only Catalan leader abroad currently held behind bars. Last week, Clara Ponsatí, another deposed minister, appeared before a court in Scotland and was also allowed to walk free. Ponsatí recently moved back to Scotland to resume her career as an economics professor at the University of St Andrews. The extradition order has sparked a wave of solidarity with the deposed minister. Amr Anwar, a prominent lawyer and the rector of the University of Glasgow, took up her defence. Today, we have the pleasure to speak with him to get all the details of the case. Mr. Anwar, welcome.
Yep, hi.
What is the strategy of Clara Ponsatí's defence team?
Well, it's to oppose the extradition attempts by the Spanish authorities. We believe that she will not get due process in Spain. We do not believe that the Spanish judiciary is independent, and that if she's returned back to Spain, then she cannot be guaranteed her human rights and a right to a fair trial. We believe this is a deliberate attempt by the Spanish authorities to criminalize the desire for independence.
What are the differences between the criminal code in Scotland and the criminal code in Spain regarding the crimes for which she's being prosecuted? And will this play a role in the extradition process?
Well, yes, it will, because Clara's charged with the crime of rebellion with violence, which is punishable by up to 25 years. In Scotland, such an offence does not exist. In fact, it was abolished many, many years ago. And the similar crime was one of sedition. So that's one of the arguments that we will advance. But it's also a question of whether the crime that she's charged with is reasonable and proportionate, because what Clara states is that she peacefully promoted the referendum. She's never committed any criminal offence. And the argument that the Spanish authorities are advancing is that they are holding her responsible for the violence that took place on the day of the referendum. But many people in this country and across Europe who watched the TV on the 1st of October, the only violence that they saw was the violence of the Spanish police and the state security forces.
What's the outcome that we can expect from this extradition process, and what will be the timings?
Well, firstly, I hope that we win. We are instructed to robustly defend Clara against the attempts to extradite her. In terms of timing, we're back in court on the 12th of April, but one would expect that a case like this, which is complex, has international implications. There's the rule of law, there's human rights, there's a question of Francoism, there's a question of the history of Spain and the judiciary. This is a sort of case that could take several months, if not years, before it reaches a conclusion.
Clara Ponsatí is in Scotland, but there are other Catalan leaders facing similar extradition orders in other European countries. Should we expect different outcomes? And are there any particularities to Scotland that could improve Ponsatí's prospects?
Well, each of the European countries have their own independent judicial system and their own legal processes that will decide the fate of the Catalan leaders. But in Scotland, we're in a peculiar situation where we've already had a referendum. So we have a situation where, for instance, the First Minister, Nicola Sturgeon, and the Scottish government have been sympathetic to the Catalan politicians, have called for the rule of law to apply and been sympathetic to Clara. But quite rightly, they've said that nobody should interfere with the Scottish judiciary. It's the Scottish judges that will decide the fate of Clara. And the conclusions they come to may well be different to ones in other European countries, such as Germany, for instance, in the case of Carles Puigdemont.
As you said, there was an independence referendum in Scotland, and the independence desire there remains strong. What are the main differences and similarities that you see between the independence bid in Catalonia and in Scotland?
Well, I think most people are horrified. The reason why Clara has received support from hundreds of thousands of people across Scotland and across the UK is quite simple. We had a referendum. The Scottish people expressed a desire that they wanted independence. The British government agreed to that vote to take place. A peaceful vote took place, and we lost the referendum. People voted against the independence, and it was a peaceful process. Now, if tomorrow Nicola Sturgeon, the First Minister, was to call a referendum, and the Prime Minister of the UK government was to send in the police and the state security forces to attack and brutally attack with truncheons and batons and violence the voters, there would be absolute uproar. People would be demanding repercussions. They'd want justice. They'd want the police officers, put on trial. Yet we've seen none of that in Spain, and people were shocked to see the violence in a mainland European country. So that's the difference here, that the manner in which the Spanish authorities have reacted and the manner in which the British authorities reacted. Of course, there's lots of arguments that go on, but in the rule of law, in a civilized democracy, what happens is government leaders, whether they be from a devolved parliament and from a national parliament, tend to argue. They will negotiate, but not to use violence, not to send the state security forces in against its people. And that seems like almost a deliberate attempt, as I've said, to criminalize the people. And when they have talked about decapitating the Catalan government, what they mean is about denying a voice to the Catalan people.
Mr. Anwar, thanks for being with us.
Thank you.
Also related to these ongoing extradition cases, the Catalan Association for Civil Rights has today presented a new initiative calling on Europe for help over the situation in Catalonia. Europe Make a Move. This is the title of a campaign launched today with the aim of filling the offices of the heads of government of 5 European countries with letters from Catalans. They aim to highlight the case of leaders in prison or abroad and denounce what they deem the violation of rights in the country. The idea is for people to send as many as possible in order to make an impact, and for pro-independence supporters to get their voices heard overseas. The letter has been prepared in 5 different languages and will be sent to leaders in Germany, France, Finland, Ireland and Portugal.
I hem seleccionat aquests 5 mandataris o bé per la seva influència o bé per la seva sensibilitat al dret a l'autodeterminació.
És essencial internacionalitzar la nostra veu, portar-la més enllà de les nostres fronteres, fer-nos escoltar i, a més, fer-ho d'aquesta forma a través de com només ho sabem fer nosaltres, a través del diàleg.
More than 1 million tourists worldwide visited Catalonia in February. Those travelling to Catalonia in the second month of 2018 shows a 2.8% increase compared to the same period last year, according to Spain's Frontur survey. In total, Catalan tourism accounted for almost 1/4 of all travellers visiting Spain that month, which was at some 4.2 million people. There was an increase in international tourists who primarily came from France, accounting for 21% of the total arrivals in Catalonia. Meanwhile, in Spain, the main country of origin was from the United Kingdom. And an increase in tourism presents a good opportunity for the service industry, hotel and restaurant sectors. So it's good timing for the first joint edition of the Hotel and Restaurant Trade Show to be held this month in Barcelona. Taking place from April 16th to 19th, the event aims to bring together two of the most important trade fairs in their respective sectors, Hostelco and Alimentaria. The fair is to take place at the Fira de Barcelona, bringing together almost 5,000 companies and 150,000 professionals, with many Michelin stars between them. Organisers have specified that recent political events in Catalonia have had no effect on the forecast of the event, which aims to put Barcelona even more so at the world's centre of food. The life of the famous Catalan surrealist artist Salvador Dalí offers almost endless anecdotes, but there's one perspective that is often untold, that of his younger sister, Ana Maria.
A new film by renowned Catalan director Ventura Pons is coming to the silver screen. The movie is called Miss Dalí, and it goes through a lifetime in just a few hours, all through the eyes of Dalí's sister, Ana Maria. And this, the director says, is the most interesting perspective of all.
Fa bastants anys que vaig tenir la idea d'explicar la història d'Anna Maria, que en el fons és una història amagada. Les històries amagades són les més interessants.
Starting from Ana and Salvador's close friendship when they were younger, it includes characters like Federico García Lorca, Luis Buñuel, and Gala Dalí. But the siblings' relationship ended in silence. Ventura Pons explains that this is in part due to the painter's fluctuating attitude, opportunism, and betrayal. Ana Dalí was 4 years younger than her brother. Later in life, she was held captive and even tortured during the Spanish Civil War. But she turned her trauma into art, ultimately writing several books, some even about Salvador. The diverse cast comes from Catalonia, the UK, France, and Andalusia. The film premieres this Friday on the big screen, but it's already made a worldwide debut. It was screened at the 2018 Guadalajara International Film Festival, Latin America's top cinema event, honoring both Catalonia and Ventura Pons himself with an award.
And with this, we come to the end of the show. But before we go, we leave you with some footage of favas, a kind of bean that is extremely popular in Catalonia. In Baix, south of Barcelona, they are organising the first fava festival, and they expect to serve more than 800 meals. So tuck into this visual feast, enjoy, and we'll see you tomorrow.